Have you ever caught yourself wondering, late at night when the house is quiet and your mind won't slow down, why growing older sometimes feels less like gaining wisdom and more like slowly drifting away from the people you love? And why no one ever warned you that aging doesn't just change your body, but quietly reshapes your habits, your tone, your patience, and even the way others respond to you? Because the truth is, most unpleasant changes don't arrive loudly. They slip in gently, disguised as experience, caution, or just the way things are now. And one of the first things that often happens is repeating the same stories again and again. Stories that once made people laugh or listen closely. Stories that mattered, but over time, you don't notice the polite smiles, the glances at phones, the way conversations shorten. And it's not that your life wasn't meaningful. It's that memory starts looping without permission. And then slowly you start talking more than listening, filling silence because silence feels heavy now, and listening takes effort. And alongside that comes a quiet resistance to anything new. New technology, new music, new ideas, even new ways of thinking. Not because seniors are incapable of learning, but because change starts to feel exhausting, risky, unnecessary, and the phrase, "I've lived long enough to know," becomes both armor and wall, protecting you from embarrassment, but also blocking curiosity. And then something subtle but dangerous creeps in: criticism, small comments at first, correcting pronunciation, judging choices, pointing out flaws in younger generations, believing it's guidance when it often lands as dismissal. And this isn't cruelty, it's fear of becoming irrelevant. Fear that the world no longer needs what you know. So you assert value through correction instead of connection. And over time, people stop sharing openly around you. They keep things surface level, safe, polite. And you feel the distance, but don't understand why. And then comes emotional withdrawal. Not dramatic, not obvious, just quieter answers. Fewer opinions, less vulnerability. Because somewhere along the line you learned that complaining makes you a burden and sharing feelings makes you weak. So you carry everything alone. Aches, regrets, worries, grief, and you smile through it, convincing yourself you're being strong, while loneliness grows even in a crowded room. And then there's the habit of living in the past, replaying old successes, old mistakes, old heartbreaks. Because the past feels solid and familiar, while the present feels uncertain and fast. And you don't realize how often conversations circle back to, "back in my day," until younger people feel like they're constantly being compared to a standard they never agreed to. And then fear disguises itself as stubborn independence, refusing help even when you need it. Turning down offers, not because you don't appreciate them, but because accepting help feels like surrender, like admitting decline. And so tasks become harder, risks increase, and pride quietly replaces safety. And along with that comes expecting others to automatically understand your needs, assuming family should just know what hurts, what you want, what you're afraid of, without saying it out loud. And when they don't, resentment builds silently on both sides, and then pessimism settles in, commenting on how everything is worse now, how the world is broken, how people don't care anymore, how the future looks bleak. And while some of that may feel true, constant negativity drains energy from every interaction, making people brace themselves emotionally before spending time with you. And then life starts shrinking without you noticing. Fewer outings, fewer trips, fewer risks, fewer new friendships. Not because you can't, but because comfort feels safer than curiosity. And slowly days start blending together. Routines become cages, and joy feels rare. And self-worth becomes tangled with usefulness, measuring value by productivity, by how much you contribute. And when that decreases, confidence fades, making you feel invisible even when you're deeply loved. And then comes avoidance of honest self-reflection, blaming age, health, society, or other people for dissatisfaction. Because asking yourself what still can change feels scary. And finally, the most painful and least discussed truth is forgetting that growth doesn't end at 60, 70, or 80, that wisdom without openness hardens into rigidity, that experience without humility turns into isolation, and that aging isn't meant to be a slow disappearance, but a transition into deeper presence, deeper understanding, and deeper connection. And here's what makes this uncomfortable but hopeful at the same time. None of these behaviors means someone is broken or failing. They mean someone is human and adapting imperfectly to a stage of life no one trained them for. And the quiet tragedy is not aging itself, but aging without awareness. Because awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you power. And the suggestion I want to leave you with, the one thing that can gently soften all of this, is to stay curious even when it feels awkward, to listen with the same intensity you once demanded to be heard, to accept help as love, not weakness, to speak honestly instead of silently carrying everything, to create new memories instead of only revisiting old ones, to say yes to small adventures, even when fear whispers no, and to remember that becoming older does not mean becoming finished, because the most powerful, attractive, and inspiring thing a person over 60 can do is continue growing, not loudly, not perfectly, but intentionally, with kindness, humility, and the quiet confidence that their presence still matters more than they realize.